Welcome to another edition of the Insider Mailbag. I'm Jared Johnson, and y'all, I am fired up. I'm so fired up that I'm pretty much annoying everyone I come in contact with. Like, calm down, bro. I'm like, no, I'm not calming down. On paper, Texas Tech's upcoming matchup in Utah is the biggest one since 2013, especially from a national perspective. It's the first time they've been in a top 20 matchup since they started the Kingsbury era, 7-0, and played Oklahoma well in Norman, but lost, and then promptly lost the next 4 games. They won the bowl game, and it was a fine first season and all that, but that's how, I mean, that seems like ancient history at this point. That was my first year here covering the team. That tells you what y'all, Tech fans, have been through over the last 12 years. But here you are, number 17 Texas Tech at number 16 Utah, and we have a handful of questions from inside the Red Raiders subscribers, so I'm going to dive right into them. I'm not calming down, but I'll try to be a little less annoying. Doorjack TT05 says, what position, he has 2 questions actually, just one question. What position group for both teams should be favored against the other team's position group? He actually mentioned he thinks Tech's defensive line and Utah's offensive line might cancel each other out. And he said that Tech's receivers against Utah's defensive backs could be a big advantage for Texas Tech. And that's what I've been saying pretty much everywhere. I don't know how many interviews I've done for, CBS headquarters, Big 12 Insider with Big B, which was fun. I can't, on and on. But this is where I see Texas Tech having a possible advantage. Now, the offensive line's got to hold up, and they haven't faced anything like Utah. But again, going back to there's so many questions about both teams, which is part of the excitement for me. I do think Tech's speed and height, and not only that, the plethora of talent. I mean, we've talked about it earlier in the week. Reggie Virgil, Caleb Douglas, Coy Aiken, Terrence Carter for sure. That dude's a stud. And I think Jacoby Williams is somebody to watch. I think Utah is a very good defensive team just as a program. Whittingham, that's obviously a big part of what he believes in. Their defensive coordinator is very good as well. So they're going to try and take some of these weapons away. I think obviously they're going to try and affect Morton in the pocket as much as they can. But I think Matt Leftwich is going to try and get Jacoby in some one-on-one situations in space, and I think he's going to crush it. Jacoby's one of my favorite players. He's one of the most electric players I've seen at Texas Tech. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jakeem. I know, obviously, Jacoby's a running back, and Jakeem was a slot receiver and kick and punt return, but they look a lot alike in terms of as receivers and their dynamic ability. I don't think Jacoby's quite as fast as Jakeem. Not many people are, but so dynamic. Probably harder to bring down in terms of like breaking tackles than Jakeem was. And I just think that Jacoby is going to play a big role in the game Saturday. And I think to answer your question, I agree with you. I think Tech's receiving core is going to be a big mismatch for pretty much everybody they face this season. So look for that. Again, that's dependent on, in some part, to the offensive line holding up. But I think there will be some quick passing, some screens, some of the things we saw last week that was very effective. So that should be interesting. Great question, Doorjack. Next question comes from Texas Tech Austin. He says, has he been missing the day after podcast with Monty Joe and I? It says, are we waiting for the stronger competition before you start doing them again? No, we're not doing day after podcast. I appreciate that you like it, but it's just very inefficient. It takes a long time. And I mean, we could do the same in videos. So you asked this question before Monty Joe and I met for the first time during the season and did a couple of videos. We're going to do that even in the bye week, like this Wednesday. We're going to meet and at least recap the game. And, we'll have that kind of content. It'll be video. It'll still be, around 10 minutes, that kind of thing. Even though the podcast was usually 20 to 30. I want to kind of go a different direction. Some of you, like Texas Tech Austin, some of y'all really enjoyed that podcast, but there's a really small number in terms of people that were ingesting that content. It just seems kind of old school to do just audio only podcasts. So we're doing videos moving forward. Mass Tech wants to know, Do you think that Blanchard and McGuire take a step back next year with a young quarterback and possibly play a younger squad that positions itself for runs in 27 and 28? Might we see lower transfer portal numbers this year with an eye towards the future and more of a transition year in 2026? I don't think they don't expect next year to be a transition year at all. Yeah, they're going to lose some seniors, but they're going to go back to the portal. Obviously, they've been recruiting very, very well. And I know that's for the future, kind of like what you're talking about. But no, they're developing guys. They're going to go hit the portal, and they're going to go make another run. And they really believe in Will Hammond. It'll be his third year in the program. It's put up or shut up time. And that's one of the truths that Joey McGuire said that I've always thought and never said out loud is like, I mean, if you're not showing something by your third year in a program, it's time to move on, you know? Maybe the program isn't a good fit for you, or maybe you just don't have it and you need to go down a division to get some playing time or something like that. Will Hammond is a baller. They believe he's the guy. They're not looking. I understand I don't think it's a bad question, but no. To answer, no. They want to make a run every year, and they think they're going to have the guys to do it next year. And at positions that they don't, they will go to the portal. It's really hard for me to answer, and I think even probably for McGuire to answer at this point, how many guys are going to get from the portal, because we're still in season. We have to see how many people leave. Obviously, the guys who are out of eligibility are going to leave, but who will leave? How many spots will they have, and what were they can't know exactly what their needs are going to be. They have an idea at some positions, but that's one of those things. I would, how Grant McCaslin and Buff has done with the basketball program is a really good example. Everyone freaks out like, why have they got this guy? And I'm like, man, if you're not trusting these guys at this point, when are you ever going to trust them? It's working, and I expect McGuire and Blanchard and Nance and all those guys to do something similar. Like, all right, this is who left. And they are always prepared. They always have backup plans for their backup plans. So, no, it's not a transition year next year. At least that's not the plan. Midnight Raider wants to know, he says, our success rate in recruiting has been remarkable. It truly has. That's a true statement. For anybody, almost. I mean, what they've been doing the last couple months, it's unbelievable. What do I think are the top factors that distinguish Tech from the competition? Beyond NIL money, there seem to be a number of positives to select from. Well, NIL money plays a role. Let's be honest about that. But this is something I never get tired of talking about. You look at the facilities; they're as good as anywhere in the country. It's the longest continuous, connected football facility in the country. They call it the football resort, and it really is. But beyond that, there's a very good culture over there. And I know that can be overused. But look, bottom line is McGuire's a good dude. He's not, I think there's a misconception that maybe he's soft, like he's a buddy to everybody, but that's not it. He coaches his players hard. But as they say, as the expression goes, he also loves them hard. And with success, with hard work, there's a lot of privileges. And a lot of guys tell me, like John Kerr, I remember him telling me there have been days where he was like, I'm not leaving. I'm just going to sleep here, man, because they have everything they need, including a barbershop. And then, I interview a couple of people, like Caden McCarty. He's a 24-star, 27 edge. I think Houston Cy Falls. Sometimes I get the size wrong down there, which school, but I think that's right. But he told me that his favorite thing about Tech are the people, and not just the coaches, but all the people. And that's true and has been true about West Texas in general and Lubbock for a long time. But that's not always true with things at the university, at Texas Tech. It's a great university, and there's always been great people, but it's like that's something that us media folks even notice is like these guys are like really good guys. It's really easy for Tech fans to root for these guys, and that just hasn't always been the case. There's been a case where you're like, man, I got the EBGBs talking to that dude, and there's just none of that, And so I want to see what the culture's like when they face adversity, because they will. I don't think there's a team that's gone through a season, even an undefeated champion, national champ, who didn't have some adversity. But no, you put it all together, and you're getting paid. One of the best, if not the best, facilities in the country. It's attached to Mahomes and Adidas, so you're going to get sweet swag and uniforms and everything. And it's a great family feel culture. I mean, what's not to like? And then McGuire and Blanchard and those guys are great salesmen. So, I mean, you put that all together, and that's the formula for this unbelievable success that Texas Tech is enjoying on the recruiting trail. OBX Raider asked how I would judge Hammond at this stage, and do I think Lloyd Jones will remain a quarterback? Second question first. Yes, he is a quarterback. And I enjoy watching him throw. He was very limited in spring, but he did get to throw some. I got to see him a little bit in fall camp, and it was mostly just like in drills and stuff like that, or against air. But he's the tallest quarterback on the roster right now, and he stands tall in the pocket. I like his release. I'll be interested to see and track his development moving forward. This is not somebody who they're thinking about moving around necessarily. I like Lloyd Jones a lot. And going back to judging Hammond, it's early, and I'm getting tired of having to say this a lot, but so many times, let's say I say something positive and then something bad happens. Y'all come to me for answers, understandably, and it's like, well, you said Hammond's great, and he threw an interception. And it's like, okay. Or the other way. So he has a lot of potential. He's a very serious, intelligent young man. The coaches really believe in him. He was a 4-star recruit, Elite 11 finalist. He could run. I'll tell you that. That was impressive to see. I like Will Hammond. I think it's right for him to be the heir apparent next year. If he has to step in, knock on wood, hope he doesn't. For QB1, if he goes down or whatever scenario that would be, I feel confident that Hammond could lead this team, especially with all the weapons around him in Tech's defense, to victories in conference. So, I'm glad he's gotten, some work in. Obviously the start in the Arkansas game, and he didn't look all that good, but I mean, come on, first start in a bowl game against Arkansas, even a depleted Arkansas with all the roster defections that everybody has that's not in the playoffs basically nowadays. It was a difficult matchup for Hammond, and he showed some toughness. I bet he learned a lot, and I'm expecting great things from Will Hammond in the future. But where the ceiling and floor is, I just don't feel like, because quarterback is really hard to judge in like spring ball and fall camp. You see them throw, they all look good. They wouldn't be there if they couldn't throw and be a good quarterback or have that talent. But it's a lot different when you're afraid, or there is a fear of getting crushed by those monsters on the defensive line. It's just and not only that, but the fear of failure, of just wanting, so much to do well and not let your team down and win the game, and the crowd and knowing you're on TV and everything. It's just a completely different animal. And so far, what I've seen is good progress. He's still relatively young, and it will definitely be interesting to see when he takes over. But we still have a lot of football left to play with Baron Morton, QB1. So including tomorrow against Utah, bright and early. So I'm really excited. Great questions from y'all. We'll be talking tomorrow during the game and after the game. But for now, I want to thank you for watching, and until next time.